This is even better than we expected. We get multiple huge updates on the St. Louis Blues, especially around star forward Robert Thomas, as Jim Montgomery has a huge decision to make with his lineup, moving forward with one key player stepping up and another set to return. We're going to break down all this and so much more in this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we get into that, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching. If you're part of the almost 61% watching this and you haven't hit the sub button yet, but you want to stay up to date on everything to do around the Blues, make sure to go down and hit that free subscribe button. It means the world, and in return, we'll give you daily updates from all around the team. But with that, dears, let's just dive straight into this, where the Blues once again have been struggling. We're seeing them come off multiple losses, but there is huge news coming around the team as we get an update that Robert Thomas was back skating with the St. Louis Blues on Sunday. Now, with Robert Thomas out for the past couple of games, off to a slow start to start the year before getting hurt, what is your thoughts on Robert Thomas? And we're going to break down a key thing with this lineup and another player that's turning heads. But what is your thoughts on Robert Thomas getting back on the ice and practicing?
Well, the team continues to drop games, so they need him back in the lineup desperately, I think, at this point, because he is that guy for the team. He's the number one center, and we're going to be talking about centers in this video as well, so stay tuned for that because we have some thoughts on some other players, including Dvorsky. But he is the number one center of this team. They need him back. He is, to a degree, a guy that drives play. They just need this guy back in the lineup to be able to drive some of the offense for the rest of the season, and having him out obviously has changed a lot of things in terms of how the lineup looks, how the lineup is operating, how Jim Montgomery is utilizing certain players, including Dvorsky as well. And now Suter's back on the wing, which we talked about in the offseason as a possibility anyway to see it at some point. But not only that, Mark, this week is a busy one for the St. Louis Blues. They play 4 games this week, and 2 of them are back-to-backs, or I guess one of them is a back-to-back against the Buffalo Sabres. So, it's a busy week. You're playing some good teams. Seattle, is playing very well this year. Edmonton has Connor McDavid, and of course, back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. Washington's solid. Sabres are off to a better start than most expected as well. So, it's a busy week against some decent teams. If you can get him back into the lineup for even 3 of these games, if not all 4. We'll see obviously how he's progressing. I won't have an update for you guys before the game tomorrow, but if he can get in for 3 of these games, then I think they'll be okay. And ultimately, I do want to say, Mark, I don't know how you feel about this. They've been dropping games. They've started the season very slow. It's not looking very good right now. I think they're going to pick it up. I think they'll be okay because a lot of the mistakes that they're making, I feel like can be cleaned up at some point, right? It's not like a fundamental problem with the team or that they just don't have good players or anything like that. They just have started very slow. They have to play for each other. Montgomery's talked about some of this stuff, and I think that eventually they'll get going here. And they love to, make us wait to start playing well in a season.
And I think the big thing is, and kind of going off what you just said, I know looking at this team, a lot of people say this team has not been playing well, and we can all see with our eyes they're not getting wins, but they have the skill, they have the roster. I mean, looking at the team without Neighbors and Thomas, you still have elite players through the entire lineup, and adding 2 of these guys back when they return is going to be a huge bump. And listen, going into the stretch of games, you want to get on a hot streak. We know the Edmonton Oilers have Connor McDavid, but guess what? They don't have Broberg. They don't have Holloway. These guys are going to be huge for a team moving forward. And Darius, looking at the lineup when Robert Thomas returns, it's going to get very interesting in what Jim Montgomery does, because there is one player that was called up and has played incredible over his 2 games, and that is Dvorsky. I mean, looking at Dvorsky, he wasn't at the top of the chart going into the Columbus game, but he still was in middle of the pack, not a negative on this team on the defensive end, the offensive end, and even going into the stats, more elite on the faceoffs this year. His skating looks better. He's shooting everything. The kid looked outstanding on this team, and we're going to dive into one more thing on this lineup. But before we do, with Robert Thomas returning, do you think Dvorsky still has a spot on this team, or do you think Jim Montgomery ends up sending him back to the AHL?
He has to have a spot on this team. He's playing amazing right now. And like you brought up, was he the best player on the ice? No. And again, this is advanced analytics. He wasn't, but he has no negative impact on the game either, right? He's having a positive impact on the games that he's been in. So you have to keep a guy like that in the lineup. And not only because of that, Suter's been moved to the wing now because, they have a little bit of, some chemistry going on there. But Dvorsky's been so good at the center position, responsible in his positioning and winning faceoffs. He's been unbelievable. That's been a story. People on Twitter are recognizing it too. Like you see it out there from people, not even, Blues reporters or anything like that, or people around the Blues team, around around the league, you're like, who is this Dvorsky kid? And why is he winning so many faceoffs? And where did he come from, right? And of course, we know the whole story with him. But I don't think you can send them back down now. And I think that, has implications at this point on the rest of the lineup. Who comes out now, right? So that's very interesting to see how that plays out once some of the guys come back from injury. Of course, Neighbors is still, a couple weeks away at this point. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But Thomas coming back, I think, makes things very interesting. But Dvorsky's looked good through 2 games. He's going to continue to find his footing and only get better. So I think that he needs to stay at this point. We'll see what happens over the course of the next couple of games. Of course, like maybe there is something in his game that we find out, after, a larger sample size that we're like, okay, maybe he does need to go back down to, fine tune a couple things. But from what I've seen so far and the fact that, he's been playing so well at the AHL level, keep him up. Why would you, drown him, for lack of a better term, back into the AHL if he's giving you a positive impact at the NHL level?
And I think the biggest thing is looking at the team with Dvorsky at the center position. He has been great on the faceoffs. He's been driving play, and I think it gets really interesting where Pius Suter is a guy that can play center or wing. We've seen in his career with Vancouver jumping up into the top 6 as a winger, having a career year coming through as well. So I think with this, you have the opportunity to, of course, Robert Thomas is your number 1 player, your top center, the leader on your forward group. So having him on the first line, I think Dvorsky has looked good enough on the second line that you can move Schenn down. Yes, Schenn's getting older. Yes, he might slow down a bit, but still one of the best centermen in the NHL, a captain. He's going to lead this team, and I think a third line role with him joining Sundqvist, Dylan Holloway, or however they shake this up. But I do kind of want to dive into the thought of Pius Suter. Listen, off to a good start, 7 points in 12 games. Bringing him in on this Blues team was one of the best moves they've made this offseason. We know he's not the best on faceoff, sub 50%. Still a clutch player, so that's going to be defensive for you. Put up offensive numbers. Darius, would you try keeping Dvorsky at the second line center position and maybe even just put Pius Suter on his wing or on the wing of maybe someone like Schenn as well?
I would keep them together for now. It seemed like they had something going on. I think Dvorsky needs to play and stay at center for the time being. I wonder if other teams start to figure him out because obviously he's a young guy that maybe they don't have too much video on or anything like that. So I do wonder about certain things like that maybe teams will eventually figure him out and get to him. So if that's the case, then yeah, maybe you play around with it a little bit. But to me, long story short, I think you keep him at center. Honestly, I think that he's been playing well. He's winning faceoffs, seems responsible defensively. And let's not, forget that, we were talking about in the summer, maybe he makes the team as a winger, right? And then he can kind of get his feet under him at the NHL level, move over to the center position at some point because they're going to need him to do that in the future. But he's doing it right now. So why don't you let him be there instead of moving him to the wing, an unnatural position or anything like that? So to me, I think you keep it the same for now. And listen, you can jumble the lines all you want. They're still not winning, right? It was in the blender a couple of weeks ago. We covered it. Just try and find something or some pairings that work and don't change anything that is working right now for the Blues.
And I mean, Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? How would you put the lineup out when we get healthy? When you get Robert Thomas back, does Dvorsky stay? Does Suter move up into the top 6 as a winger? Let us know all your thoughts down below. And speaking on comments, let's go straight into comments of the day. Coming through, just saying it right now. If the Blues go on a run right now, Mustache Domingues has to keep his facial hair as is. And Darius, what's your thoughts on this? If they go on a run, is the mustache going to be the new look?
If they go on a run, listen, and I have high hopes for the month of November. If they go on a run here, I'll keep it because, you have to at that point. So yes, I will keep it, but we'll see how this month goes. I'm remaining optimistic, and I think everyone else should as well.
But go down and leave a comment down below, and you could be featured on comment today. Go down and spam Mustache Domingues down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back in another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Mustache, and take care, Blues fans.